is pretty long, but nice to know that okay, you're feeling the thought process at least is right, and I think the point you raised, sir, about the city command center is pretty important. I think we need to have an integrated command control center, not just talking about just probably the surveillance aspect and some another command center talking about the say, traffic part of it. So we require a command control center which can uh, converge the data coming from field devices and how we can create an actionable intelligence out of it. So I think so. Moving to Ashish, I think taking this point forward. So, do you see some of these projects you have implemented in country or outside India have started moving towards that direction?
So direction globally is clearly on a integrated aspect. So not only from a city command perspective, but from subsystem perspective also. When we started in India, we started two initiatives almost parallel. One was Safe City, and second was disaster management. Traffic management somewhere remained in conceptual stage and it never seen the light. But Safe City being a high importance and a high priority took leaps and bounds ahead of disaster management. And that is where we have created a little bit of gap on that side. While globally, these three things go very much hand in hand. And that's the best way to do because interoperability between these three is important. Many systems are common, even on ground. ITMS, Safe City, as well as disaster management, all needs field camera feed. All of them have a command control as a key. All of them have an incidence management as a key. All of them have a basic C4I as a key. Connectivity anyway plays a role. What we are missing is probably a safety aspect becoming much more stronger. As Mr. Dhakar said, that security is one aspect. Safety from other aspect perspective is very, very critical. And when we talk about disaster management, any kind of disaster situation, whether it is because of natural disasters or it is because of man-made disasters. So whether it's a mob or it is say terrorist attack, these are all categorized in one way or the other as a disaster if they are not controlled immediately. And that is a place where this integration plays a major role in smart city larger setup, as well as from a safety and security of society and individuals perspective.
Thanks, Ashish. And I think you again talked about a very important aspect about how we can converge even disaster management onto this entire safety management. And I'm happy to inform you that a couple of projects which we are working as consultants, the commissioners have started thinking that I don't want my command control center just to manage traffic or something, or probably just security. They're talking about disaster management. They're talking about day-to-day city management through the command control center. And that's the way to go forward. Lokesh, I think I'll come back to you later. You just had your presentation. But coming to Sudhindra, I think you come from Axis with world-class products in your portfolio. So what you think is the way forward to probably make this cities which we are dreaming of making smart cities? So from product perspective and implementation, what are the key aspects you would want all of us to look at?
From a product perspective. Yeah, from a product perspective, I'd like to bring in few elements which from our experience we see as a challenge which you faced, especially bidding, winning and implementing projects with the system integrators. I think one of the key considerations that is looked into while coming up with the spec is like every vendor is trying to sort of narrow down and see what is it from their component they can influence over there. And then everybody's trying to do that. So what happens in the RFP, is it a really integrated RFP that is coming out, which is really meeting the need of the customer? See, for example, what I do is when we win projects, especially in a segment, city surveillance, safe city, or traffic management, I go to the customer and ask, are you really using your solution to the best? Are you really getting what you wanted? Are you really using it the way you expected it to use? And sometimes the answer is yes and no, right? So
tracker, and we'll record the GPS location of the pole, because the entire application is geospatial based. So that if there's an event, the event could be tracked exactly where it occurred, and if there's a first responder, the police team would know whom to call so that the response time is minimal. One more challenge was that the utility infrastructure is unmapped. Nobody knows where it is. So if you dig up a pipe, if you cut a cable, at your own expense, MSI expense, we had to do it. So we have created a digital map of Pune city, and wherever possible, we have identified some of the utilities on the digital map. Now the next step should be to use the existing digital map of Pune city and identify, the paths which the utility services would take. No doubt today it is chaotic, but some kind of sanity could be brought into the system. So that what happens, that once we roll out an application such as gas distribution system, water distribution, electricity, communication, the identified lanes would be kept with, for example, in Beijing, we went to Beijing, now you have red tile, blue tile, yellow tile. You know what is below the red tile, what is below, and these runs parallel to the road. So whenever you want to deploy an application, you only open that tile and you can use only that particular trench for laying the relevant cable. So this kind of system could be used in Pune. Now what has happened, that video surveillance is a bandwidth hungry. It's a very bandwidth intensive, processor intensive, storage intensive application. So in deploying the Safe City solution in Pune, we have tested out the robustness and reliability of the backbone. Now this backbone obviously will need further fine-tuning as the system rolls on, but what we have done, instead of using 4-port switches, we have used 16-port switches at junction. So the remaining ports are available. These ports can be used for free Wi-Fi service to citizens. In fact, only last week we have deployed Wi-Fi services at 3 locations in Pune, and it is under testing. Similarly, for pollution detectors, these sensors, you can possibly use Wi-Fi connectivity or some connectivity to ensure that you are able to cover the city comprehensively. We have the geospatial mapping, which is in place, can obviously be used for a smart city application. Then we have provided UPS with more backup time. The tender RFP stated 1 hour, we have given 3 hours. So if there's a power requirement at junction for supporting the smart city initiative, we could possibly, increase the throughput, because we have already laid power cables to the at each junction. And these power, the MSCB can readily now supply, because the idea of doing a joint survey was that MSCB should tell us where they can give us a power, junction, the BSNL where they could deploy their connectivity, and how we would do the civil work, take the cable across. Now, when we have taken the cable across to the cameras, we have not used copper cable because of EMI interference. We have used fiber. So you can get a good scheme, good bandwidth. So the bandwidth availability can be scaled up. We have also used COTS, common off-the-shelf, system for data center. Servers, storage, network. So these could be scaled up. We have used virtualized and consolidated system for data center, but we could possibly create a cloud and we could optimize. I understand that Cisco's initiative in fog computing, all those things are down the line. Now, since the project rollout would span over 10 years or so, we have anticipated these induction of technology, but the solution is robust enough to be scaled up with minimal disruption to public life. This is what we have done.
Thanks, Mr. Ali. I think you talked about, challenges, and I think the primary challenges have been the field work, right? The digging, and then laying the power cables, laying the fiber. And I think Cisco being the leaders in the communication, I'm sure you've been talking to some of the cities on what could be the solution for probably the cities to move forward on to tackling this problem for future, because we are going to require bandwidth always in future also. Now, currently, many of the projects which we are consultants, we try to take the bandwidth on a lease model. But again, there are issues related to whether the single service providers can give us that bandwidth. So, are there any best practices you have come across where we can actually look at futuristic solutions?
Thank you. So I think this is a very important topic, and it actually a little bit correlates to the presentation which I gave, before this panel discussion. So when we are designing a safe city, the key requirement would be is that the video feed which is there on the street travels and moves to the control room. Right now, these cameras are actually distributed all across the city. Now we also know that this safe city projects are not limited to only cameras. We are talking about video analytics, which can be built on the camera, or it can run in a server or in a data center, where it processes the video to intelligently generate alerts. So there is a lot of alerts which has also to move from different parts of the city back to the control room. Thirdly, we also want that while the video feeds are coming to the command center, which is centralized, the storage is happening centralized, and a lot of optimization happens, but we still want that individual police station should be able to see their jurisdiction area and able to act much quicker, right, if the alert comes or if they are able to do the monitoring. So all this actually is saying that there's a lot of communication is required, and this communication is very important, because if this communication breaks, we may have the best of the solutions available, but then it's not working as good as it's not working, right? And probably done two safe city projects completely, and being part of most of the safe city projects where Cisco has designed the network, we have realized one thing, that network is one of the key component. So I'm not saying cameras are not important, cameras are equally important, but network is equally important when we are designing a safe city project. If I see the data for last 5 years and the safe city projects, so city surveillance is happening in India for a long time, right? You can see 8 years back also there was city surveillance done in Chandigarh or in Bangalore or even in our Mumbai, in bits and pieces. One of the major failure, or I won't say failure, but the less effectiveness of this where the network was not robust, right? So what we have to do when we do the designing part, we need to ensure that the network is robust, it is ruggedized, because the environmental is going to be very bad, right? In Mumbai, for example, we know the rains, right? The rains are the worst enemy for any projects that gets deployed. In fact, practically 3 months, typically this kind of projects get stalled. So this network, when we are designing, we should ensure that this can take this ruggedness. The next important part is the scalability. As we said, this is going to go bigger, right? From safe cities becoming smart cities now. And safe cities is probably the major element of smart cities. So this has to be completely scalable. So these are the few parameters which I feel are very important when we design at the conceptual stage itself and make it as a part, right? One more important part, which probably may not be relevant as a technology player, but more relevant, from my counterparts here, is that unfortunately is a L1 game here, right? So we probably, there are the best system integrators sitting here and best technology companies sitting here, but it's still L1, right? So whoever is the lowest wins the project. So how do we ensure that we design the architecture in a way that the best of the solutions and the best of the integrators becomes part of that project, right? So make it successful.
Thanks, Lokesh. I think you've talked about the surveillance a lot here, but I think the fire hazards which the risks we are seeing today are manifold, and we have seen so many incidences happening within the city of Mumbai, for example. So what are the ways, what are the challenges which you feel currently we need to tackle? And for any city to become smarter, I think we need to look at how we are making our houses safer. One is individual, every cooperative societies and individuals taking measures, but then at the same time at the government, the urban local body and the other stakeholder level initiatives, which you would want to suggest.
I think to me the prevention is the best cure. First of all, the occupants of any city, they should be made aware. Many of us live in tall buildings and they don't even know what is the use of hydrant wall which is put next to their staircase. So I think whole awareness program has to be intensified in a manner where at least everybody is aware of their roles and responsibilities in case any event happens. And at least that can make sure that if the systems are working and in your fire hydrant or your ventilation system, at least people will not lose their lives, which is most precious. And we don't care. As of now, we know how carelessly things are happening, in the sense, if you take that Charkop example, which happened last year in Mumbai, where people staying on 27th floor, they were coming down in a lift, not knowing that a bedroom fire has taken the smoke in the lift well, and the lift was not integrated with the smoke detector. Means, what is that integration? Not costing 25,000-30,000 rupees, but the lifts were not integrated, and people unknowingly went into lift and they lose their life. Now that is a kind of awareness, and that is a kind of, I would say, the people who are living in that tall building, or any building for that matter, must know, first of all, what are the safety and security requirements, what all they should do in emergency. So the awareness is first step, and I'm sure a technology can complement many things. But to me, if that awareness itself is not created, whatever technology you bring and whatever sophistication you bring will defeat the purpose. So I think there is a huge gap. There is a huge work which requires to be done. We are from FSAI doing a lot of efforts. We are even going to we thought that if our generation was not taught what needs to be done, at least we have started a program where we are going through the students, so the kids are given education in the school with a student program, and when they go back to the home, and they are excited because when they see the fire tender, they see the rescue tools, and they tell their mom and dad that what they saw in the school, probably parents will get sensitized and they understand what should be done. But I think education and awareness is something which is a huge gap, which must be done along with whatever technology we bring into the cities.
Rightly said, sir. I think technology is just an enabler. I think your education, your discipline, these are core aspects which I think we should learn from the Western countries.
I mean, even if you are buying an apartment, you should know what are your rights and what you should see from developer when it is handed over to the society. I think from there, if you are demanding those requirements from a developer or builder, that's the kind of awareness which owner today will ask how safe is his building. And you can see many advertisements coming in the newspaper, but who tells you about what is the safety and security measures taken? They will talk about Italian marble finishes, clubhouses being equipped with beautiful swimming pools. But have you seen an advertisement where a developer will specify, or when you go to buy apartment, do you ask him how safety and security are taken care? That's the kind of awareness I think should be built up, where probably a time has come when the fire departments, or there should be a rating system which should come, wherein he feels like an energy rating, the safety rating should also come up, wherein he feels secured that, okay, I am buying a building which has X stars or whatever it is. So I think that's the kind of awareness we should create.
Just to add to this, since we operate in